you found the location that you want to invest in your very first short-term rental, which is so great, but yeah, there's a big roadblock, and that's called the rules and regulations of a short-term rental. So these are the town ordinance. All you just do overall is go on your search engine and just look up, let's say, Madison, Wisconsin short-term rental ordinance, and you will find all the rules and regulations in that town and county. Because remember, you want to make sure that it passes the county and the town, and then also the HOA if there is an HOA for that property. But in this video, we will talk about the 6 common ordinances that I have found in Wisconsin, and just to see if, is it even worth having a short-term rental in that town if this ordinance is in place. Hey everyone, I'm Brittany. I'm your local realtor here in Madison, Wisconsin. I've been investing in short-term rentals for a couple of years now, and I'm absolutely obsessed with it. If you guys have any other questions, definitely like my Instagram and DM me on Instagram. That's the best way to contact me, or schedule a call with the Book Now feature down below. So rules and regulations, they're everyone's hiccup when it comes to short-term rentals, because that is pretty much the government saying, hey, you can't, invest in this area. So here are the 6 common ordinance / rules and regulations. I'm just going to call them ordinance in this video. But the 6 common ordinances that I have found in Wisconsin that have kind of been my roadblock, and I will admit to this. So the very first one, I'll kind of make a list right here. The very first one is the roaming tourist license. The second one is a conditional use permit. Third one is a night stay, so minimum night stay. Fourth one is just being a certain mileage away from the investment itself. The 5th one, I believe that we're on 5th, is the owner-occupy ordinance. And then the 6th one is a property manager. So we'll go through all of them right now. The very first one is a roaming tourist license. This is actually what you need in the whole state of Wisconsin. So every single county will, require this. Every single township will require this. Pretty much it's an inspector that's going through the property to make sure that the property is safe for guests. So they want to make sure that, a random person's not going to come into the house and the house is a complete dump. There's poop on the floor or rats running around. They want to make sure that the property is actually in good standing. The second one is a conditional use permit. I actually was really afraid of this for a while, but now that I understand a little bit more, it's not as scary to me. So a conditional use permit is just a license that you have to, or an application that you have to bring to the township as well as the county, telling them what you're doing with the property. The biggest thing is that the neighbors will get a letter saying, hey, Brittany Brager is going to make this into a short-term rental. Are you cool with this? If not, please let us know. If they're not cool with it, then they can go up to the township and express their feelings, and maybe you can work it out, but maybe not. If you can't, then you don't get that conditional use permit, and then you can't have a short-term rental. So the biggest way to overcome this is talk to the neighbors before you get the property. Yes, door knock, which I know everyone's afraid of, but just tell the neighbors, hey, this is what I'm looking to do. We are going to have quiet time starting at this time. We'll have cameras, we'll have noise detectors, we'll have all these great tools in place to make sure that they are not going to disturb you. Most of the time, neighbors are super cool with that. The third one is a minimum night stay. And honestly, I don't know if I'm going out of order from my list, so bear with me. But it's the minimum night stay. So can you have a 7-night minimum for this property? Or is it 1-night minimum? Or is it a 2-night minimum? A lot of times the county will tell you this. If they don't, definitely the township will. But honestly, for a 7-night minimum, if you look on Airbnb or Verbo, you will see that a lot of people don't obey by that. So I'm not going to tell you to do it, because if you do it, you might get caught and your short-term rental will be, taken away. But if you do it and you don't get caught, or maybe it might just be slap on the wrist, I really don't know the outcome. But if you look on the platforms, a lot of people don't obey by that. They're probably just kind of playing it, you know, slap on the wrist, whatever. So that is your judgment. I am not telling you whichever way to go. So the fourth one is the miles away from your property. So a lot of times townships or counties will say, hey property owner, you have to be 20 miles away from your property or within the property radius. So that just is telling, you know, the county that if anything were to happen to the property, you can respond within 30 minutes. This has been my hiccup with a town ordinance. If they say, hey, you have to be 20 miles within the property itself, I either skip that county or township, or I try to find a buddy that I can use as their address. So the fifth one is owner occupy. Now this one, I will admit, if I see this, I stay away from it because, you know, I already have my primary house. I don't want to go buy a whole different house just to Airbnb it. I know some people do that, and some people love it because they just rent out a room or their basement and that person is paying for the mortgage, which is super great. But for me, I like my space, and if I have to owner occupy to make it into a short-term rental, I'm gonna say, let's pass. Finally, the sixth one is the property manager. So some counties or townships, they will say, hey, you have to have a property manager to make this into a short-term rental. Or you have to, let's say, own 5 other properties in this area, and then you can property manage all 5. But if it's less than 5, it has to be property manager. So I personally don't like that, just because you have to pay property managers sometimes 20%, 10%, 15%. And you know what? I can do it all by myself, make it very seamless for 0% to anyone. So if I have to have a property manager, I usually just skip it. Overall, all these ordinances, there's so much more, and this is literally just the basics. But me personally, you have to have a roaming tourist license. That's a no-brainer. It's all, you know, the state of Wisconsin. The second one I'm not really too afraid of is the Conditional Use Permit. And that's just because I talk to the neighbors. I have, you know, the quiet time, and I have cameras, so usually they just feel comfortable with it. The third one, I usually find a way around it, is the miles within the property. Most of the time I'll probably just find someone I can just, you know, put their address down and say, hey, thanks bud. And then the other one is the minimum night stay. 7 nights is a little bit steep for me. 5 nights I'll probably go for it. 3 nights definitely no problem. 2 nights of course, and 1 night is obviously ideal. Those are the ordinance. Just, I have a whole spreadsheet, and I will do that in a whole nother video, but I literally just, you know, I write down the county, I write down the township, I jot all this stuff down, because when you're going to start looking for your short-term rental, all this is just going to be so jumbled in your head, and it's so nice to just write it down. If you find a property that you love, and it's in a township that you know you already did your research, you can go back into your spreadsheet and say, oh shoot, I can't even have a property in that township. Let's just skip it. It just saves you so much time. I learned the hard way. I just started writing everything down, and it's saving me so much time in my research. So I hope that you guys find this video very helpful. Ordinance was something that was a huge roadblock for Clay and I, and we have now actually started nailing it down and started coming up with solutions with them. So I hope that you guys will take everything from the grain of salt and, you know, just see if it will work for you. If not, move on. There's so many other properties out there. Thanks again.